Thanks for joining us here at 6. I'm Lee Mills. Wisconsin Head Start programs are bracing for an uncertain future tonight after President Donald Trump released his proposed fiscal year 2027 budget, including potential federal cuts. WMTV's Cameron Kelly joins us here in the studio. And Cameron, thousands of families around the state rely on this program.
That's right, Lee. Head Start is a free child development program providing educational skills, family support services, and child care while parents work. I spoke with the leaders with the nonprofit who say the proposed budget does not cut their funding, but it doesn't increase it either, as costs for staff, food, and facilities rise.
My fellow Americans, good evening.
President Donald Trump's fiscal year 2027 budget proposes to eliminate $775 million for community services block grants for programs including Head Start.
We know about flat funding is that really in today's economy, it's effectively a cut.
After the proposal was released Friday, Head Start leaders learned Saturday from the Office of Management and Budget their funds would remain the same, but the group is faced with rising costs.
At the end of the day, you can only do so much with the available funding, and those cuts have to come somewhere. And, really for the safety of kids and families, you can't just serve more children with those same amount of dollars that are flat.
According to the White House's website, the president describes examples of wasteful spending. It says, quote, funding for Head Start centers that promoted picture books about gay penguins, lessons on how to grow children's gender identity, and how to talk to toddlers about race.
That hurtful rhetoric is tough, but it just makes me feel like they don't know what Head Start is really about, which is predominantly helping working families to be successful with the goals that they want for themselves.
The executive director of Dane County says families are worried.
We do have stability right now as an agency, that we will be there for them, and still acknowledge with transparency that there is uncertainty right now around federal funding.
Leaders like Bailey are looking for ways to keep the nonprofit afloat, while the president hopes to put $1.5 trillion into the military.
I think our organization, like many, we are looking to continue to diversify funding.
Ultimately, it is up to the president on whether he will actually take funds away from the program or increase it. If funding is lost, families would lose access to services that support job trainings, employment, groceries, and more. Live in studio, Cameron Kelly, WMTV 15 News.
Cameron, thank you. Other services at risk of losing budget support include the National Institutes of Health, Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, and the Refugee Resettlement Program.